Hi everyone. The streets of Millfield, Ohio. Rain finally stopped just before midnight. Everywhere was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic along the highway. Most residents were asleep when a passing truck driver noticed something unusual near an abandoned service road. At first, he thought it was a broken down vehicle. Then he noticed the driver's door hanging open. Concerned, he pulled over and called 911. Within minutes, flashing lights illuminated the darkness. Inside the vehicle, investigators made a discovery that would haunt the town for years. A woman sat motionless in the driver's seat. She had been murdered. Her name was Emily Carter. She was 28 years old, a schoolteacher, recently engaged, and by all accounts, living the happiest chapter of her life. No one could understand who would want her dead. What began as a seemingly straightforward murder investigation would eventually uncover a web of lies, obsession, betrayal, and a killer hiding in plain sight. The case would remain unsolved for nearly 4 years, and the person responsible attended Emily's funeral. Before we continue, if you're enjoying these true crime stories and want more mysteries that keep you guessing until the very end, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It only takes a second, but it helps us bring you more fascinating cases just like this one. With that said, what detectives would uncover next would make this case even stranger. The morning after the discovery, news spread quickly throughout Millfield. Emily was well known in the community. Students adored her. Parents respected her. Friends described her as kind and intelligent. She had spent the previous evening attending a small dinner with coworkers before leaving around 9:30. According to friends, she planned to drive home and prepare for the weekend. She never arrived. Her fiancé, Ryan Brooks, reported her missing shortly after midnight. Hours later, police found her vehicle. Detectives immediately began reconstructing her final movements. There were signs of a struggle inside the car. Her purse remained untouched. Her engagement ring was still on her finger. Robbery wasn't the motive. Whoever killed Emily appeared focused on one thing: Emily herself. Investigators interviewed everyone close to her: family members, friends, coworkers, neighbors. As expected, Ryan quickly became a person of interest. Not because detectives believe he was guilty, but because spouses and partners are often examined first. Ryan cooperated completely. He provided phone records, bank statements, access to his devices. His timeline checked out. Multiple witnesses confirmed his whereabouts throughout the evening. Within days, detectives ruled him out. Attention shifted elsewhere. One coworker described a strange interaction that occurred several weeks before Emily's death. According to her, a man had appeared outside the school on multiple occasions. He never entered the building, never spoke to staff. He simply sat in his vehicle watching. At the time, nobody thought much of it, but now the detail seemed important. Detectives searched surveillance footage. The quality was poor, yet they identified a dark-colored sedan parked near the school on several dates. The license plate couldn't be read. The lead quickly stalled. Weeks passed, then months. Despite hundreds of interviews and dozens of search warrants, investigators found themselves with little evidence. The community became frustrated. Emily's family became desperate. Tips poured in from across the state. Most led nowhere. Then a breakthrough arrived from an unexpected source. A college student contacted investigators after seeing a television report about the case. She claimed she recognized Emily, not from the news, but from a coffee shop. The student explained that she often studied at a cafe near campus. Several times she noticed Emily speaking with an unknown man. The meetings appeared serious, sometimes emotional. Detectives showed her photographs. None matched. The student couldn't identify the man. Still, the information raised important questions. Emily's family insisted she wasn't hiding any relationship. Neither was Ryan. Yet investigators couldn't ignore the possibility. They obtained Emily's deleted messages. Dozens of conversations were recovered. Most were ordinary: family discussions, wedding planning, work conversations. Then analysts discovered something unusual. A series of messages exchanged through an encrypted application. The account belonged to someone using the name Atlas. No photograph, no personal details, only messages. At first, the conversations appeared innocent. They discussed books, travel, current events. Over time, however, the tone changed. Atlas became increasingly attached. Emily remained polite but distant. Then came messages investigators found disturbing. Atlas asked personal questions, wanted to know where Emily spent her weekends, asked who she was with, asked when Ryan was away. Eventually, Emily stopped responding altogether. Atlas did not. The messages continued. For months, unanswered. Detectives now faced a new possibility. They might be dealing with a stalker. Cybercrime specialists traced the account. The trail led through multiple VPNs and fake email addresses. Whoever created Atlas had worked hard to hide their identity. Months later, investigators uncovered a crucial mistake. One login originated from a public library. Security footage from that day still existed. The image quality was poor, but investigators finally had a face. The man was identified as 36-year-old Nathan Keller. Nathan worked as a freelance web designer. He had no criminal history, no known connection to Emily. When questioned, Nathan admitted creating the account, but denied harming her. He claimed he admired Emily after encountering her social media profile years earlier. He insisted their conversations were harmless. Detectives weren't convinced. A search warrant revealed thousands of screenshots stored on Nathan's computer. Photographs of Emily, maps showing locations she visited, notes documenting her schedule. Investigators were shocked. Nathan had been tracking her life for years. Still, disturbing behavior alone didn't prove murder. No physical evidence linked him to the crime scene. Once again, the investigation stalled. Then another discovery changed everything. Forensic analysts revisited data from Emily's fitness watch. Initially, they believed the device stopped transmitting shortly after her death. A closer review revealed something different. Minutes before the signal ended, the watch connected briefly to another Bluetooth device. That device had a unique identifier. Investigators traced it. The identifier belonged to wireless headphones purchased online. The purchase records led directly to Nathan Keller. For the first time, detectives had evidence placing him near Emily during her final moments. The investigation intensified. Phone data showed Nathan's device traveling toward the same area where Emily's body was discovered. Traffic cameras captured a vehicle matching his sedan near the service road. The pieces were finally coming together. When confronted with the evidence, Nathan remained calm. He denied everything, but detectives noticed inconsistencies. His timeline shifted repeatedly. Small details changed. Alibis weakened. Witnesses contradicted his statements. Then investigators uncovered perhaps the most damaging evidence of all, a hidden hard drive, buried inside a storage box in Nathan's garage. The drive contained years of obsessive records, photographs, schedules, notes, detailed observations about Emily's daily routine. One folder was labeled simply Future. Inside were documents discussing possible scenarios for approaching her, winning her trust, removing obstacles. One obstacle appeared repeatedly: Ryan, the fiancé. According to prosecutors, Nathan had developed a fantasy relationship that existed only in his mind. When Emily became engaged, that fantasy collapsed. Reality shattered the illusion. Obsession transformed into resentment. Resentment transformed into violence. The arrest shocked the community. Many neighbors described Nathan as quiet, polite, intelligent. No one suspected he was capable of murder. Yet investigators believe he had spent years constructing a secret world centered entirely around Emily. The trial attracted national attention. Reporters lined the hallways. The prosecution carefully presented the evidence: digital records, location data, surveillance footage, witness testimony, forensic analysis. Piece by piece, they reconstructed Nathan's obsession. Jurors learned how he monitored Emily's life, tracked her routines, collected information, created false identities, maintained secret records, then gradually escalated toward violence. The defense argued there was no direct eyewitness, no confession, no murder weapon. They claimed the evidence was circumstantial, but prosecutors counter that modern investigations rarely depend on a single piece of evidence. Instead, they rely on patterns, connections, digital footprints, and the digital footprint Nathan left behind was enormous. After 7 weeks of testimony, closing arguments concluded. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Emily's family waited anxiously. Ryan sat quietly beside them. Years of uncertainty rested on a single decision. Finally, the verdict arrived: guilty. Nathan Keller was convicted of first-degree murder. As the verdict was read, several jurors later admitted they were struck by one disturbing realization. The case had almost remained unsolved forever. Not because the killer was a criminal mastermind, not because evidence was missing, but because investigators initially searched for someone close to Emily: a jealous partner, a disgruntled friend, a family conflict. They never imagined the threat came from someone she barely knew. Someone who had silently inserted himself into her life without permission. Someone who transformed curiosity into obsession. Years later, investigators still use the case as an example of how digital evidence can solve crimes once considered impossible to prove. Every login, every message, every location ping, every deleted file. Together they formed a trail that eventually exposed the truth. For Emily's family, no verdict could erase the pain. No sentence could restore the future she was supposed to have. But the conviction answered the question that had haunted them for years. Who killed Emily Carter? The answer wasn't hiding in a dark alley, or inside a criminal organization, or among dangerous strangers. It was hiding behind a screen, watching, waiting, obsessing, and leaving behind a digital trail that ultimately became impossible to erase. Sometimes the most dangerous people aren't the ones who threaten openly. They're the ones nobody notices at all. The ones standing quietly at the edge of the crowd. The ones who convince themselves they deserve a place in someone else's life. And by the time their victims realize the danger exists, it may already be too late. For years, the truth remained buried beneath thousands of files, messages, and hidden records. But eventually, every secret leaves a trace. And in this case, those traces led detectives straight to a killer who believed he had planned everything perfectly. But he was wrong. If this case stayed with you, let me know your thoughts in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.